The morning started quiet, almost peaceful. Sunlight slipped through the blinds, and the smell of coffee filled the kitchen. Ilara stood by the counter, hair tied up, dressed in a cream blouse that made her look untouchable. She smiled when she noticed me watching her. "You're staring again," she said softly, stirring her tea. "I still can't believe I married someone who makes mornings look good," I said. Stepping closer, her laugh sounded light, but her eyes drifted away for a second before meeting mine again. "You're sweet. I'll be at my mother's for the weekend. She's been lonely since the surgery." I nodded, pretending not to notice the hesitation in her tone. "Want me to drive you there?" "No. You have work. It's just a few hours away." She glanced at her phone when it buzzed, screen flashing before she turned it face down. "I'll call when I reach." Something about that small movement stuck in my mind. She was always quick to hide messages lately. I kissed her cheek, breathing in her perfume. "Drive safe." She smiled, held my face for a moment, then walked toward the door. The sound of her heels faded until the house fell silent. For the rest of the day, I told myself not to overthink. We'd had rough weeks before. Married life wasn't supposed to be perfect every day. Still, the silence in the house felt wrong. By evening, I poured myself a drink and sat by the window. Her text came late, reached safely. "Mom's resting. Miss you." I typed a reply, then stopped. The words looked too easy to practice. Around 9, my phone rang. Calden's name flashed across the screen. "He rarely called on weekends, mate," he said, his tone uneven. "You home?" "Yeah. What's up?" He paused. "Thought you might want to grab a drink. Been ages since we hung out tonight." "Yeah, nothing fancy. Just a couple at my place." Something about his voice was off. Calden was never hesitant. He sounded like someone trying to sound casual and failing. "I'll drive over," I said, grabbing my keys before he could protest. The night air was cool as I drove out. His street wasn't far, just a short turn from the main road. I passed familiar houses, lights glowing behind curtains. Small slices of other people's peace. Then I saw it. A silver hatchback parked near his driveway. The same one Ilara drove. Same little dent near the bumper I'd meant to fix. For a moment, I told myself it couldn't be hers. There were plenty of silver cars in this neighborhood, but the license plate caught the light. My stomach tightened. It was hers. I parked half a block away, heart pounding so loud I could hear it in my ears. His upstairs window was lit. Movement flickered across the curtains to shadows. One taller, one smaller. My throat went dry. I sat there, gripping the steering wheel, fighting the storm inside me. Every instinct told me to walk away, but another voice whispered, "You need to know." I got out and walked toward the house, slow steps on the pavement. My hands felt numb. At the door, I hesitated before pressing the bell. Muffled voices inside. A pause, then footsteps. The door opened. Calden stood there, casual smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Hey, you made it." "Yeah," I said, scanning his face. "You didn't tell me someone else was joining." His brow creased for a second, then relaxed. "Oh, Ilara's here. She dropped by. Said she needed to pick something up for you." My mouth went dry. "For me?" He nodded too quickly. "Yeah, some files or something." Didn't ask what. Behind him, Ilara appeared at the end of the hallway, her hair down now, wearing a casual dress I'd never seen before. Soft blue, sleeveless. She froze when she saw me. "I didn't expect you here," she said, voice low. Eyes darting toward Calden. "I could say the same," I replied. Calden cleared his throat. "I was just telling her we were about to have a drink." "Together?" I asked. He forced a laugh. "Nothing weird, man. We were talking about your upcoming project." She said, "You've been stressed." Ilara stepped forward, her smile tight. I told him you've been overworking. I thought maybe he could help you unwind. Her tone was smooth, almost too careful. The room smelled faintly of her perfume. My chest burned. Kind of you both to worry, I said. Didn't know I was such a topic tonight. Called and moved to the kitchen. Let's open a bottle. It'll feel normal again. I watched Ilara as she avoided my eyes. So, your mother's doing fine? She froze mid-step. Yes, why? No reason. I forced a smile. Glad she's resting well. Her throat moved as she swallowed hard. She is. Calden returned with glasses. His hand trembled slightly as he poured the wine. You all right? He asked. I'm great, I said. Actually, I should head back. Long day. He exhaled with visible relief. Sure thing, man. Let's catch up properly next time. Ilara followed me to the door. You're leaving already? I met her eyes. You seem comfortable here. Her breath hitched. Don't make it sound like something it's not. I haven't said anything. I just came to talk. With Calden? She stepped closer, her perfume brushing against me. You're being unfair. Maybe. Or maybe I'm seeing something you don't want me to. Her jaw tightened. You're tired. Go home. I nodded. Right. I'll see you when you get back from your mother's. Her eyes widened, but I didn't wait for a response. I turned, walked to my car, and sat behind the wheel. The house lights glowed behind me. Through the second-floor window, I saw movement again, her silhouette standing close to his. My hand gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. For a long moment, I couldn't move. The betrayal hadn't been confirmed, but I could feel it pressing against my chest like a blade. I started the engine, heart numb, watching the light flicker behind the curtain. Then I drove away, the taste of disbelief thick in my throat, already knowing that nothing in my life would ever feel the same again. I sat in my car for what felt like hours, watching the light in Calden's window move in slow, haunting patterns. Every part of me wanted to believe there was another explanation. But my chest already knew the truth. When the curtain shifted again, I got out. The night air stung my lungs as I walked toward his house. The sound of muffled laughter reached me before I even touched the steps. Her laugh. The one that used to start my mornings? I pressed the doorbell. Voices stopped. A faint clatter followed, then footsteps. Calden opened the door, smiling too quickly. Mate, didn't expect you back so soon. I figured we could still have that drink you mentioned, I said, pretending to look relaxed. Sure, he said, voice too bright. Come in. As I stepped inside, my eyes adjusted to the soft light. His living room smelled faintly of her perfume. Ilara appeared at the edge of the hallway, hair slightly tousled, wearing a short, light gray dress I'd never seen before. Her face froze for a second before she forced a small smile. I didn't know you were coming. Neither did I replied. Calden scratched his neck, glancing between us. She dropped by. Said she left something here from last week's get-together. Turned to her. That so? Her hands fidgeted near her sides. I thought I'd stop by to grab it before heading home. What exactly did you leave? She hesitated. A scarf. Calden jumped in. Yeah, that blue one. She thought she'd lost it. Right, I said. That explains the laughter I heard. Her lips parted slightly. We were just talking about old times. You know how the three of us used to hang out? I walked further inside. It's been a while since that felt natural. Calden's smile faltered. You want a drink? I can open something, sure. Whatever you're having. He went to the kitchen, leaving me alone with her. The silence pulsed between us. She looked everywhere but at me. You didn't tell me you'd be in this part of town, I said quietly. It was a last-minute thing, she replied. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. Does your mother live on this street now? Her chest rose sharply. Don't twist this. Then tell me what it is. Calden returned with 3 glasses, pretending not to hear us. Here we go, red wine. Your favorite? I took the glass, watching his hand tremble as he poured. You all right, Calden? You look tense, he chuckled, forcing nonchalance. Just tired. Long week. I sipped the wine. Seems everyone's had one. Lara took her glass and sat on the couch, crossing her legs. The movement was graceful but deliberate, like she was trying too hard to appear calm. So she said, eyes flicking toward me, how's work? Busy, I said. Lots of meetings, though I guess not as interesting as yours. Calden coughed into his hand. You should see the new project he's leading. Massive deal. I'm sure, she murmured. I leaned back, pretending to relax. What did you two talk about before I got here? Ilara met my gaze for the first time. You. That answer sliced deeper than she realized. Me. I asked, keeping my tone even. Calden grinned awkwardly. We were saying how focused you've been lately. Always working. We miss hanging out like before. Is that true, Ilara? You miss it? She took a slow breath. I miss when things felt simple. Funny, I said I thought things still were. The tension thickened. Calden checked his watch. You should let her get going. Her mother's waiting, right? Ilara nodded quickly. Yes, I should probably leave. I smiled. I'll walk you out. Her eyes widened slightly. That's not necessary. Humor me. Calden gave a small shrug. I'll clear up inside. We stepped outside. The cool air brushed against her bare arms. She folded them, shivering slightly. Cold? I asked a little. You could have brought a jacket from your mother's. Her jaw tightened. You're not being fair? I'm not trying to be. Then what are you doing here? Following your car wasn't part of my plan, if that's what you're asking. I just happened to notice it parked here. She stared at me, speechless. You said you'd be with your mother, I said. So help me understand why your car's outside my best friend's house. I told you I came to get something, at night. Her voice sharpened. Stop making it sound like I've done something wrong. I stepped closer until she had to tilt her head to meet my eyes. Have you? For a second, her breath caught. You're paranoid. I'm careful. There's a difference. She looked away, voice trembling now. You've been distant. Always working. I needed someone to talk to. Calden? He listens, she said softly. I bet he does. Her eyes glistened under the streetlight. You're twisting everything. I nodded slowly. Then untwist it for me. She hesitated. There's nothing to explain. I came here, we talked, that's all. I studied her face. You know what's strange? When people lie, their eyes look everywhere except at the person they're lying to. Her gaze snapped to mine. You don't trust me anymore, should I? She blinked hard. You're hurting me, good. At least you can feel something. She stepped back. I'm leaving. I moved aside. Drive safe. Tell your mother I said hello. Her eyes filled with tears she refused to let fall. She turned, walked to her car, and drove off. I stood there until her taillights disappeared, and looked back at Calden's window. The curtain moved slightly, like someone had been watching the whole time. Inside. I could see his shadow pacing. I walked back to my car, breathing hard. My hands shook as I gripped the steering wheel. Part of me wanted to confront him right then, demand the truth. But another part of me understood something deeper. If they were willing to lie together, they would fall together too. I started the engine, forcing my voice to stay steady as I whispered, let them think I believe it. The road stretched ahead, dark and empty. I drove home without music. Every second replaying the sound of her voice, saying his name. When I reached the house, I left the lights off. Her perfume still lingered in the living room, faint and cruel. I poured a drink, sat on the couch and stared at the phone on the table. No messages. No calls. The silence felt heavier than anger. It was the kind that came when you stopped fighting to believe a lie. By the time I finished the drink, my decision had already formed. I would not confront them again. Not yet. I wanted them to believe they were safe. I wanted them to think I had no idea, because when betrayal hides behind glass, the smartest thing you can do is let them keep the lights on while you plan in the dark. The front door opened just after sunrise. I was already awake, sitting at the table with untouched coffee. Ilara walked in, carrying a small overnight bag. Her smile was light, casual, like she had nothing to hide. You're up early, she said. Couldn't sleep, I replied. How's your mother? She's better. We watched movies and talked all night. She placed her bag down and poured herself a cup. She misses you. I nodded slowly. That's nice to hear. She leaned on the counter. You're quiet. Everything okay? Fine, I said. Just tired. Her tone softened. You've been working too hard again, maybe. I watched her stir sugar into her coffee. Did Calden call you last night? Her hand froze midair for half a second before she smiled again. Why would he? No reason? He called me, said he wanted to hang out. I stopped by his place. Her eyes lifted. You went there? I did. Her shoulders straightened. That's unexpected. I like surprises, I said. You weren't there long, right? She set her cup down too quickly. What are you implying? Nothing. Just asking. You're not asking, you're accusing. I'm trying to understand, I said. Her voice hardened. I told you where I was. If you don't believe me, that's your problem. I leaned back in my chair. You're right. It is my problem. She looked at me for a long moment before turning away. I don't know what's gotten into you lately. Maybe I'm just noticing things I ignored before. Her jaw tightened. Then stop looking for trouble. She walked toward the stairs and I followed with my eyes. The way she avoided mine told me more than her words ever could. For the rest of the day, she acted as if everything was normal. She hummed while folding laundry, asked about my schedule, texted someone when she thought I wasn't watching. At dinner, she leaned closer across the table. You've been distant. Did something happen at work? Nothing I can't handle. I feel like I'm losing you. You think you're losing me? I said quietly. She blinked. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. Just asking. Her eyes flickered with irritation. You're being cruel. I'm being honest. She pushed her plate away. If you have something to say it. Already did. You said you were at your mother's. That's all that matters, right? Yes, she said sharply. I smiled faintly. Then I believe you. The silence that followed was thicker than any argument. She stood, walked away, and closed the bedroom door behind her. I finished my drink. The bitterness of the wine coating my tongue. When I went upstairs, she was sitting on the edge of the bed, scrolling through her phone. She turned the screen away when I entered. Still working? She asked. Just thinking. She smiled too lightly. Don't overthink everything. You'll drive yourself crazy. Good advice. Come to bed, she said. You look exhausted. I nodded and turned off the lamp. In the dark, I could feel her body next to mine, tense under the sheets. I closed my eyes, listening to her breathing. Every inhale sounded measured. Every exhale, cautious. Hours passed. She fell asleep. I didn't. Her phone buzzed once faintly, face down on the nightstand. I stared at it. Another buzz. Then silence. My hand moved before I could think. The screen lit up with a single line. Had a good time? Same place next week? The words hit harder than I expected. Simple, careless, and final. I sat there, heart pounding, staring at her name above the message. The sender was unsaved, but I didn't need a name. I already knew who it was. I looked at her sleeping beside me, her hair spilling across the pillow, her face calm and unbothered. She looked peaceful, like someone who believed their secret was safe. I put the phone back and lay down. My eyes stayed open until dawn. When she woke, she stretched and smiled. You're up early again, I said quietly. Did you sleep well? Better than I have in weeks, she said. It feels nice to be home. She reached for my arm, resting her hand there. The warmth of her skin felt unfamiliar. Can I make us breakfast? She asked. Sure, I said. Do that. She left the room humming softly. I waited until she was gone before I picked up her phone again. The message was gone, deleted. She was fast. Too fast? In the kitchen, I could hear her calling out, do you want eggs or pancakes? Whatever's easier, I replied, forcing my voice to sound normal. She laughed. You always say that? I walked downstairs, keeping my tone light, because you always make it sound like a test. She turned from the stove, smiling. Then I'll surprise you. Her eyes glowed like nothing was wrong. The lie sat between us, quiet and invisible. Feeding on my silence, I sat at the counter, pretending to check emails while she plated breakfast. She slid the plate toward me, brushed her fingers against mine and said, You're distant again. Maybe I'm tired, I said. You've been tired for days. Maybe that's the problem. We should take a trip. Just the two of us? Clear our heads. I met her gaze. Would Calden mind? The fork in her hand froze for a second. She smiled quickly. Why would he? I don't know. You two seem close lately. Her tone sharpened. Don't start this again. Not starting anything. Just talking. Then talk about something else. I looked at her for a long moment. Sure, she exhaled, annoyed. You're making me feel like a stranger. I stood walking toward the sink. You felt like one for a while. Shh. She turned sharply. What's that supposed to mean? It means I missed the version of you that didn't need to hide behind lies. Her face flushed. You're imagining things. Maybe or maybe I'm just seeing them for what they are. Her voice trembled slightly. I don't know what you think you saw, but I was at my mother's. I never said you weren't. She stared at me. Then stop acting like I did something wrong. I'll stop when you stop pretending you didn't. Her breath caught. For a moment, I thought she might confess. Instead, she turned away. You're cruel, I'm careful. She wiped her hands and left the kitchen. The sound of her footsteps faded up the stairs. I stayed there, staring at the empty doorway. The smell of her perfume lingered in the air. My phone buzzed. Calden's name appeared on the screen. I stared at it until the call ended. Then I smiled. If she wanted to lie, I would let her. But lies have a way of turning into evidence when you know where to look. By the end of that day, I had decided something simple. I wouldn't confront her again until she had no room left to lie, because nothing hurts. A liar more than silence they cannot read. I called Calden that afternoon, keeping my voice casual. Drinks tonight? He hesitated before answering. Sure. Usual place? Yeah, I said. 7. The bar was half empty when I arrived. Calden was already there, sitting at the corner booth with his phone face down and a half-empty glass beside him. He looked up, smiling like nothing was wrong. Didn't expect you to be early, he said. I couldn't sit at home, I replied. Ilara's been in one of her moods. He raised an eyebrow. Everything all right? Fine. Just distant lately. He nodded, pretending to listen. Marriage, right? Always some kind of storm. Yeah. I took a sip, watching his reflection in the glass behind the bar. You know how it is. Trust me, I do. You've been quiet too, I said. Haven't seen you around much? Work's been insane. He laughed softly, but it sounded forced. Clients never stop calling. Still managing to have fun, though. Here and there. Anyone new in your life? I asked lightly. He smiled, swirling his drink. You know me? I keep things simple. I remember when you didn't. He chuckled. College was a different time, I said, leaning forward. Remember that night after exams, when you forgot your wallet and made me pay for every round? He laughed, genuinely this time. You still remember that? Hard to forget. You never paid me back. Guess I owe you one. You do? I said quietly. Maybe more than one. He looked at me, confused for a second, then smiled again. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing, I said. Just nostalgia. The waitress came by with another round. I lifted my glass, but my eyes stayed on him. His hand trembled slightly as he picked his up. "You all right?" I asked. "Yeah," he said quickly. "Didn't eat much today," I smirked. "You look nervous," he laughed. "You're reading too much into things. Alara said she hasn't seen you in weeks." The glass slipped from his hand, spilling whiskey across the table. He cursed under his breath, grabbing napkins. "Damn clumsy." I leaned back, watching him. "Happens." He dabbed at the spill, avoiding my eyes. "You mentioned Alara?" "Yeah. Said you two haven't talked." He froze just long enough to notice before saying, "That's true. Been a while." Smiled faintly. "Strange. She said you helped her with that renovation project a few weeks ago." He blinked, then forced a grin. "Oh, right. Forgot about that. Just a quick consult." "Quick," I repeated. "You always were generous with your time." He lifted his drink again, this time steady. "You're fishing, aren't you?" "Should I be?" He smiled, but his eyes were tight. "You tell me. I'm just curious," I said. "You and Alara used to talk a lot. I thought maybe something changed." "Nothing's changed," he said too quickly. "You know me? I'd never cross that line." "I hope not," I said. "You've always been like a brother to me." He met my gaze. "And you to me." Oh. The silence between us was thick. He finished his drink in one swallow, then flagged the waitress for another. "You've been tense lately," he said. "Everything okay at home?" "Why do you ask?" "You just seem ... different." "I could say the same about you." He laughed nervously. "You always were good at reading people." "It's a curse," I said. He raised his glass. "Then stop reading and start drinking." We drank. But even as the whiskey burned down my throat, my focus stayed sharp. "So," I said, setting the glass down, "if I asked Alara to invite you for dinner sometime, you'd come?" He smiled faintly. "Of course. Why wouldn't I?" "No reason. Just thought it might be nice." "Sure," he said, glancing at his watch. "Though I might be tied up next week. Work again?" "Yeah. Always work." He looked around, avoiding my eyes again. "I should head out soon." "Early meeting tomorrow." I nodded. "Of course." He stood, reaching for his jacket. "Good seeing you, man. We should do this more often." "Definitely," I said, standing too. He patted my shoulder before walking away. "You're lucky, mate." The words hit harder than they should have. I stood there, smiling thinly. "Yeah," I said quietly. "I know." When I got home, the house was dark. Alara's car was in the driveway. The faint scent of her perfume lingered in the hall. She called from upstairs. "You're late. Stop for drinks," I said, with Caldine. "Yeah. How's he doing?" "Same as always." "That's good," she said softly. "He's a nice guy. Very." She appeared at the top of the stairs wearing one of my shirts. Her hair was damp, skin glowing from a shower. "You should sleep. You look drained." "I might shower first." She smiled faintly. "Good idea." As she turned away, I stared at her back, my thoughts cold and steady. Later, when she fell asleep, I sat in the dark living room with my laptop. The glow from the screen lit the empty space beside me. I opened the shared phone plan, scrolling through recent locations. Her phone pinged near Calden's address twice in the last week. I stared at the map, zooming in until the dots blurred. Then I checked receipts. 1 hotel, downtown, charged to our joint card. 2 dinners, same name on both. Every detail was small enough to deny. But together they screamed. I reached for Calden's hoodie hanging over the chair, the one he left after a barbecue weeks ago. I lifted it to my face. The scent was faint but familiar. Not his cologne. Her perfume? I dropped it. My pulse thudded in my ears, but my face stayed calm. I opened a new folder on my desktop and labeled it Proof. Inside, I saved screenshots, timestamps, receipts. Every click was steady, every file a piece of her deception. When I finally stopped, the clock read 2:47 a.m. I went upstairs, stood by the bed, and watched her sleep. Her hand rested where my body should have been. She looked peaceful again, almost innocent. I whispered. Friends don't hide things. She shifted slightly, her lips parting as if she heard me. I stepped back, silent. Tomorrow. I would look her in the eye and smile like nothing was wrong. But tonight, I finally understood something simple. The person who betrays you once will do it again. And when they do, already be ready. The evening was quiet. Rain hit the window in a steady rhythm while I sat at the kitchen table pretending to read. My phone buzzed. It was a message from Jenna, a mutual friend from our old group. Thought you'd like this. But a photo followed. At first I didn't understand what I was looking at. Then my breath stopped. Calden sat on a leather couch, leaning close to Ilara. Her hand rested on his knee, her face tilted toward him with that half-smile she used to give me. The caption read, "Private get-together last night. Small crowd." I stared at the screen, waiting for it to make sense. Ilara had told me she was working late. I texted Jenna back. "Where was this?" She replied instantly. "Calden's place." "Why?" "Nothing," I wrote. "Thanks." I set the phone down and stared at the table. My reflection swam across the wood in the faint kitchen light. The house felt suddenly foreign. Lara walked in a few minutes later, heels clicking on the tiles. Her voice was light, almost cheerful. "You're still up?" "Couldn't sleep," I said. She placed her bag on the counter and smiled. "You should rest." "You look tired. Rough day." Watching against the counter, watching me. "Something happen?" "Nothing serious." She tilted her head. "You sound strange, do I?" "Yes," she said softly. "You're usually not this quiet." I closed the book, pretending to be tired. "Just thinking about work. You think too much." "Maybe." She walked over and rested her hand on my shoulder. The scent of her perfume brushed against me, sharp and sweet. "You need to let things go sometimes, like you do." She paused. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing," I said quickly. "You're right. I should sleep." She smiled faintly, but her eyes flickered with unease. "Don't stay up too late, I won't." When she left the room, I looked back at the phone. Her laughter echoed faintly down the hall as she took a call. I opened the image again. The hand, the smile, the casual closeness only shared by people who had crossed a line long ago. I printed it quietly the next morning before she woke up. The photos slid out of the printer warm and fresh, the ink slightly smudged at the edge. I looked at it for a long time before folding it carefully and slipping it into my wallet. At breakfast, she wore a soft white blouse and jeans, pretending life was as normal as ever. "Do you have meetings today?" She asked a few, I said. "Dinner tonight?" "Maybe." She smiled over her coffee. "We could try that new place near the river." "Sounds good?" "Good," she said, brushing her hair behind her ear. "It's been a while since we had a night out." Her tone was sweet, her eyes calm, but her phone was face down beside her cup. Every few seconds, the screen flickered with silent notifications. I asked, "Who keeps texting you this early?" She looked down. "Work? Even on a weekend?" "Deadlines," she said, taking another sip. "You know how it is." "I do." She smiled again, but it didn't reach her eyes. I stood, finishing my coffee. "I'll grab my jacket." "Where are you going?" "Just a quick errand." "Want company?" "Not today," I said. "You rest." She nodded, pretending not to mind. When I got into my car, I sat there for a full minute, staring at the steering wheel. Her voice echoed in my head, soft and casual. Like she'd done nothing wrong. I drove to the office, parked, and pulled the photo from my wallet. I placed it on the dashboard, watching their smiles in the morning light. Calden's arm rested behind her on the couch. Her shoulders leaned toward him. Everything about their posture screamed comfort, familiarity. Something earned over secret hours. The betrayal wasn't new. It was rehearsed later that afternoon. Calden called. "Hey, mate. Free tonight?" "Maybe," I said. "What's up?" "Just thought we could hang out." "Been a while." You read my mind, I said evenly. "Dinner sounds perfect." He laughed. "That's the spirit." When evening came, I got home early. Ilara was already dressed, standing near the mirror, touching her earrings. The black dress she wore was tight at the waist, elegant but daring. "You look incredible," I said. She smiled shyly. "You like it?" "I do," she turned, spinning lightly. I wasn't sure if it was too much. "It's perfect." Her lips curved. "Maybe tonight will be good for us." "Maybe," I said. "Where did you say you booked the table?" "That new place by the river." "All right," I said, slipping my wallet into my pocket. The photo inside felt like a secret weapon. Halfway through dinner, she reached for my hand across the table. "You've been distant lately," she said. "Work," I replied. She squeezed my fingers gently. "I miss how we used to talk." "Do you?" Her eyes softened. "Of course, even when you're with other people." She froze for a second before smiling again. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Just curious," I said, leaning back. "I'm not following." "I know," I said quietly. She tilted her head. "You're being strange again." "Maybe I am," I said. "Maybe it's something in the air." She laughed lightly. "You're impossible." After dinner, she suggested dessert. I said no. We drove home in silence, her hand resting on the console between us. The city lights flickered through the windshield, painting her face gold in shadow. When we parked, she reached for my arm. "Are we okay?" "Of course," I said, smiling faintly. "Why wouldn't we be?" Inside, she disappeared into the bedroom to change. I stayed in the kitchen, pulling the photo from my wallet. I pinned it behind a small frame on the wall, where only I would know it existed. Later, when she came back out, wearing my shirt again, she leaned against the counter. "You're quiet tonight. Just tired? You sure nothing's wrong?" "Nothing you need to worry about." She nodded, uncertain. "All right. I'm going to bed. Go ahead. I'll join you soon," when she was gone. I looked around the house, every detail too perfect. To rehearsed, the clock ticked softly. I whispered to myself, "You wanted freedom, Alara. I'll give it to you. Just not how you think." The rain started again, faint, against the glass. And for the first time, I didn't feel angry. Only cold, calm clarity. I wiped the counter for the 4th time, even though it was spotless. The kitchen smelled like rosemary and garlic, the air thick with the tension I'd been cultivating all day. The table was set. 2 candles, a bottle of red wine, 3 plates. It looked warm, welcoming, innocent, perfect for a trap wrapped in politeness. When the doorbell rang, my pulse quickened. I adjusted my collar and smiled, the kind of smile that hides more than it shows. Ilara stepped in first, her perfume arriving before her. The red dress clung to her like a confession. "You look nice," I said. She smirked lightly. "Trying something new. I thought you liked this one." "I do," I replied, my tone even. "It brings back memories." Before she could answer, Calden appeared behind her, holding a bottle of wine and a crooked grin. "Hope I'm not too late," he said. "Right on time," I replied, taking the bottle from him. "Come in, both of you." We moved to the dining room. The clinking of glasses and soft background music did their best to drown the silence pressing between us. Ilara laughed too quickly at one of my comments about the meal. Calden shifted in his seat every few minutes. Their eyes rarely met, but when they did, they darted away like guilty children. So, I began pouring wine into each glass. "It's been a while since we all sat together like this." Calden nodded. "Yeah, college flashbacks, right? You used to cook those late-night pasta disasters." I smiled. "True. You were the one who set off the smoke alarm every time you tried to help." Ilara giggled softly, brushing her hair behind her ear. "Those were good times." I watched her fingers. They trembled when she reached for the glass. "Still good times," I said. "If you think about it, not much has changed." She met my eyes, her smile faltering. "What do you mean?" "Oh, just that some bonds age differently. Some grow stronger, some take unexpected turns." Calden coughed, pretending to find something interesting on his plate. Ilara broke the silence. "You always talk in riddles when you're nervous." "Do I sound nervous?" I asked. "A little," she said. "You've been acting strange lately." I tilted my head. Strange how. She hesitated, then forced a laugh. Like you're performing for someone. Maybe I am, I said quietly. Maybe tonight's special. The air thickened. The candlelight flickered, casting long shadows across the table. Calden finally spoke, his voice careful. This dinner feels ... formal. What's the occasion, really? I looked at him, steady and calm. Can't a man host his closest friends? He lifted his glass. Sure, but you've never been the toast in candles type. I leaned back in my chair. Maybe I've changed. Maybe life teaches you to celebrate moments before they disappear. Valera's fork clinked against her plate. You're being dramatic. I smiled. Drama keeps life interesting. We ate in silence for a few minutes. The sound of utensils scraping porcelain filled the space where honesty should have been. I could feel their discomfort vibrating through every breath. Finally, I broke the quiet. Calden, how's work treating you? Still at that consulting firm? He nodded, avoiding my gaze. Yeah, long hours, same as always. Ilara mentioned you've been traveling a lot, I said. His hand froze halfway to his mouth. Oh, she did. Ilara blinked fast. I just meant he's been busy. You know how demanding his job is, right? I said. She would know. Calden forced a laugh. We've barely had time to talk lately. That's odd, I said softly. You used to talk all the time in college. You two were inseparable. Lara's voice thinned. That was years ago, true. But some habits linger. She dropped her napkin onto her lap and sighed. Can we not dig through old memories tonight? Let's just enjoy dinner. Of course, I said. To old friendships and new beginnings. I raised my glass. They hesitated before doing the same. To new beginnings, Ilara echoed, her voice quiet. To friendship, Calden added, not meeting my eyes. The glasses clinked softly. A fragile sound that barely held itself together. We drank. The wine burned less than I expected. I set my glass down and smiled. Actually, speaking of new beginnings, I have news. Lara leaned forward. What kind of news? I've accepted a new job offer, I said. Out of town? Her eyes widened. What? When did this happen? Last week, I replied. It's a big opportunity. Different city? Fresh start. Calden tried to sound supportive. That S. Great, man. Congrats. I said. But it means I won't be around much anymore. We'll be seeing less of each other. Ilara's tone cracked slightly. You didn't even tell me you were looking for something new. I wasn't, I said. It just came up. Seemed like the right time. The right time for what? She asked. For change, I said, my eyes holding hers. Everyone needs it eventually. She looked away, pretending to adjust her bracelet. So you're leaving soon? In a few weeks, I said. You'll manage fine without me. Her lips pressed together. You make it sound like I'm helpless. I know you're not, I said. You've always been independent. Capable of managing multiple things at once. Her eyes flashed. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing, I said calmly. Just an observation. Calden stood abruptly, pretending to stretch. I should get going soon. Early meeting tomorrow, of course, I said. Thanks for coming. It means a lot. Lara stayed seated, watching him. He gave me a brief nod before heading toward the door. Drive safe, I called out. When he was gone, silence filled the room again. Ilara finally turned to me. That was cruel. What was... I asked, inviting him here just to make him uncomfortable. I saw what you were doing. I smiled faintly. Did you? She glared. You think you're clever, but you're just being petty. Maybe, I said, standing up, but I'm also being honest. Something both of you forgot how to do. She rose slowly, her voice softening. If this is about me working late or not calling enough, it's about trust, I interrupted. It's about how people pretend to be loyal while building a second life right under the same roof. Her expression faltered. You're imagining things again. Maybe, I said, walking past her to blow out the candles. But imagination has a funny way of uncovering truth. She followed me to the door, her tone trembling. You're scaring me. I opened the door for her. You'll be fine. You've got people to keep you company." Her eyes filled with something between guilt and defiance. "You don't know what you're talking about," I smiled. "I know enough." She stepped out into the night, her heels echoing down the driveway. When I closed the door behind her, the house fell silent. I walked back to the table, picked up the empty wine glasses, and whispered, "You wanted freedom, Ilara. I'll give it to you. Just not how you think." The candlelight had died, but the game had just begun. The morning light hit my face before her lips did. Ilara leaned down, pressing a kiss to my cheek. Her voice was soft, sugar-sweet. "Morning, love," she said. I opened my eyes slowly, pretending surprise. "You're up early." "I made breakfast," she said, smiling. "Your favorite. French toast with cinnamon." She hadn't cooked for me in months. I sat up, watching her walk toward the kitchen. The robe hung loose on her shoulders, her hair pulled back in a way that looked rehearsed. When I joined her, the table was set. Orange juice, eggs, even the coffee brewed the way I liked it. "Trying to impress me?" I asked. She laughed too quickly. "Maybe I just miss taking care of you." I bit into the toast, the taste familiar but distant. "You don't usually do this." "What's the occasion?" She sat across from me, chin resting on her palm. "Do I need an occasion to be nice to my husband?" "Sometimes," I said quietly. Her smile tightened. "I know I've been distant. Work, stress, stupid things. But I want to fix that, do you?" I asked. "Yes," she said, reaching across the table. "I miss us." Her hand brushed mine, warm but trembling. I didn't pull away. "Then stop pretending we're fine," I said. Her voice faltered. "I'm not pretending." "You are," I said. "But it's fine. Pretend if it helps you sleep." She withdrew her hand, her eyes wet but defiant. "You don't make this easy, neither do you." The rest of breakfast passed in silence. That afternoon, she sent me texts filled with hearts and smiley faces, like we were newly in love again. When I came home, she was waiting by the door in a silk dress, holding a glass of wine. "You're late," she said playfully. "Traffic," I replied. "I thought we could have dinner together." No phones, no arguments. Just us. I smiled. Sure, she served steak perfectly seared. The smell filled the room, but I barely tasted it. She talked about a new perfume line, a possible trip to Milan. Her mother's health, everything except what mattered. Between her sentences, I studied her eyes. They darted away whenever I looked too long. Guilt lived in those glances, sharp and visible. After dinner, she stepped closer, running a finger down my arm. "Can we stop fighting?" "I hate sleeping apart," who said. "We're fighting." I asked. She hesitated. "You're cold lately." "I'm tired," I said. "Tired of pretending?" Her lips trembled. "I'm trying, all right." "I know I messed up." "With what?" I asked, keeping my tone calm. "With ... neglecting us," she said. "I don't want us to change." She wrapped her arms around me from behind, pressing her face against my back. Her warmth felt staged, like an actor learning a role. "I don't want to lose you," she whispered. I placed my hand over hers. "Then tell me why you're scared." "I'm not scared," she said, pulling back slightly. "I just want things to feel normal again." "They will," I said, turning to face her. "Just maybe not in the way you expect." She tried to read me, but I kept my expression neutral. She kissed me softly, her lips lingering longer than usual. I kissed her back, not out of desire, but out of necessity. When she finally went upstairs to shower, I grabbed my jacket and left the house. My car engine hummed low as I drove across town. The city lights blurred through the windshield. I parked outside a gray building where a single office light glowed behind frosted glass. Inside, the lawyer adjusted his glasses when he saw me. "You're early," he said. "I like being prepared," I replied. He nodded. "You're sure about this?" "Yes," I said. "Start the transfers tonight. Move everything into the new account. Close the joint ones." "Understood," he said. "And the property. Transfer it to my name only," I said. "She won't notice until I'm gone." He hesitated. "You're not divorcing her yet?" "Not yet," I said. "Not until she realizes what she's really lost." He nodded again, scribbling notes. I'll make sure it's discreet. Hey, good, I said, standing up. The less she knows, the better. I left the office and drove home. The night air carried that damp chill of October, sharp and clean. My hands tightened around the steering wheel. There was a calm inside me now, the kind that comes after a storm has already decided what to destroy. When I stepped into the house, the lights were dim. Ilara was curled on the couch, pretending to read. She looked up and smiled. You were gone long, she said. Just needed air, I replied. She patted the seat beside her. Come here, I sat down. She rested her head on my shoulder. Remember when we used to fall asleep watching movies here? I remember. She laughed softly. You'd always fall asleep first. Maybe I was just comfortable, I said. She sighed. I want that again. I don't like this distance. I looked at her. Then stop creating it. Her expression flickered. Confusion mixed with something else. You talk like you already gave up. Maybe I did, I said quietly. Her eyes searched mine. Don't say that. Then give me a reason not to. She kissed me again, harder this time, desperate. I let her, feeling the strain behind her tenderness. When she pulled away, she whispered, I'll make things right. Good, I said, standing up. I'm going to bed already. She asked. Long day, I replied. Upstairs. Watched her from the window as she lingered in the living room, scrolling through her phone, frowning at something unseen. Maybe Calden had texted. Maybe not. It didn't matter anymore. I opened the closet, pulling out the suitcase I'd packed the night before. Shirts, documents, the photo from the party, a copy of the property deed. All neatly folded beside a quiet plan. I walked downstairs once more, past Elira's door. She was already asleep, her soft breathing steady, her lies resting beside her. Outside, the driveway was silent. I lifted the trunk and tucked the suitcase inside. The night swallowed the sound, standing there. I looked back at the house, our house, the one filled with laughter, betrayal, and the scent of her perfume. I whispered to myself, you wanted control. Ilara, now it's my turn. Then I shut the trunk and went back inside, smiling as the clock ticked past midnight tomorrow. The performance would continue, but this time the script belonged to me. I told myself I was finished. The pieces were in place. The lawyer had the transfers. The suitcase was packed. I was calm in a way I had not been since this began. My phone buzzed while I was shaving. A single notification from an email account we used for joint bills. I almost ignored it, then opened the message. You need to see this, Jenna wrote. A file was attached. I tapped it. Pictures, screenshots, a line of text highlighted. I read it aloud, so I would have to believe the words. He says he misses her. Calls her his real escape. I froze with the razor in my hand. The world narrowed to the tiny screen. I called Jenna. Where did you get that? Private group chat, she said. Someone forwarded it. Thought you should know. Thanks. I hung up and sat down hard on the edge of the tub. The screenshots were worse than the photo. There were messages, late nights, video calls, a nickname I did not recognize. One line stood out. I need you to get me out of here. You're my real escape. My blood went cold. Calden had been one betrayal. This was something else. A plan. A promise to someone far away. I drove to work with my mind running like a silent engine. Every red light felt like a warning. I tried to imagine her typing those words, the heat of the screen reflected on her face. The image burned behind my eyes. That evening I waited until she left the house to run an old trick Jenna taught me. I logged into our shared cloud account from my laptop. A folder named Photos hid a subfolder called Temp Drafts. I opened it. There it was. A video file labeled nighttalk.mp4. I clicked. Her voice filled the room. She laughed once, soft and private. A man's voice answered. He said her nickname, and she replied with a softness she never used with me. You sound tired, said in the recording. I am, she replied. Home feels heavy. Keep talking to me, he said. Tell me everything. We will make a plan. Her voice lowered. I want to leave. I want to be brave. You will, he said. I'll wait. You'll be free. He called himself Gareth in the chat logs. The messages showed an overseas number, timestamps that matched my sleepless hours. He sent flights, offers, a promise that sounded carefully rehearsed. She called him her real escape. I closed the laptop and breathed. The calm left me, replaced by something colder. This was not a single mistake. It was a strategy with someone who planned for her to vanish. I thought about everything I had done to protect us, and I felt used. I could confront her. I could shout until the walls surrendered the truth. Instead, I decided on something quieter and sharper. At midnight, I opened a new anonymous email account and typed 3 words. I checked for a long time before I hit send. The message read, "He knows." My hands did not shake as I pressed send. I sat back and listened to the house breathe. I slept little that night. When dawn came, Alara was already moving around the kitchen. Her face looked hollow, mascara sharper at the edges like she had not slept properly. She avoided my eyes in a way that made me watch her more carefully. "You're home early?" she said. "I slept here," I replied. "Long night." She set a mug down with a trembling hand. "You okay?" "Fine." She fidgeted with the hem of her sweater. "I had a terrible sleep." My phone kept buzzing. "Who from?" I asked. She swallowed. "No one important. Is it Gareth?" I asked before I could stop myself. Her face flinched. "How do you know that name?" "Does it matter?" said. "Whoever he is, he's been messaging you." She blinked, then laughed in a strained way. "You're being paranoid again." "Paranoia is expensive when it's justified," I said calmly. She paced, hands clenched. "You have no proof." I pulled a chair closer and sat. My voice stayed even. Proof is messy. It's not always neat. Sometimes it's waiting for a reaction. Her eyes filled, mascara smudging down her cheeks. "You're cruel. You made choices," I said. "I made a decision." She stepped toward me. "Please, talk to me. Explain what this is about. Explain why you call someone your real escape." Her breath hitched. It was a phrase. It meant he listens. He listens and he wires flights. She backed away as if the room had turned sharp. "You don't understand." "I don't need to," I said. "I need honesty." She laughed once, a broken sound. "Honesty would ruin everything. Then, tell me now." She stared at me as if searching for a hidden camera. "You're lying. This is a game to you. It doesn't feel like one." She sank into a chair, hands in her lap. "He promised me an escape." "For what?" I asked. "For everything I thought I deserved. For a life that didn't feel like this." She spoke fast, words tumbling. "Gareth said he would take care of me, that I should wait until everything was set, that he would help me leave with money and a place to stay. So this wasn't just a late-night comfort." She shook her head. "It started as that. Then it became plans. He said he had someone who could help with paperwork. He said I should be brave. You called him your real escape." "I did," she whispered. "I thought if I believed it, it would be true." "You thought betraying me was the ticket?" She flinched. "I didn't plan it like you make it sound." I was lonely. He was foreign and different. He listened. He offered a way out and called in. I asked. "He was just company," she said. "Please, don't hurt him." "Why should I protect him?" I asked. "He chose to be close." "Don't do something you'll regret," she said, voice urgent. "Please." "I already decided what to regret," I said quietly. "Regret for me comes later." She stood, sudden and frantic. "What do you mean?" "I mean I am leaving," I said. "Soon, and I am taking everything I can to make sure you do not walk away with more than you earned." Her face went pale. "What are you talking about?" I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small envelope. Inside was a photocopy of a flight itinerary to a city she had mentioned in a wistful voice. I slid it across the table. She looked at the name and then at me. She began to cry then, full and loud. Makeup ran down her face in dark rivers. Please, she gasped. I never meant for it to hurt you like this. You never meant for anything to hurt anyone but yourself, I said. You wanted an exit, Alara. You have one now. It's not the one you imagined. She stood and slammed her fist on the table. You can't do this to me. I can, I said. And I already am. She staggered up the stairs, mascara tracks like war paint. I listened to the door close. My phone buzzed. Another anonymous reply had come from a different account. I ignored it. I moved silently through the living room to the window and watched her silhouette disappear behind the curtain. She looked small there, like someone who had pawned her courage for a promise. I whispered to the empty room. He knows. Then I turned away and began to make calls I had put off. The next movements in a plan that tasted like ash and freedom. The morning air carried that strange silence that comes before a storm. I felt it the moment I stepped outside. Clouds pressed low, heavy with the weight of something waiting to happen. I didn't plan to follow her. I just happened to be at the cafe when she walked in. But when I saw Calden already sitting there, his back tense, hands gripping a coffee cup that hadn't been touched, I knew fate had decided to show its hand. She spotted him first. Calden? She said carefully, as if the name itself might break something fragile. He didn't rise. His voice was steady, but sharp. Sit down, Alara, she said, her purse trembling slightly in her grip. What's wrong? He looked at her for a long time. Then he asked, Did you think I wouldn't find out? Find out what? She asked. He pushed his phone toward her. On the screen was a message thread hers. The same tone, the same phrasing, the same promises she once whispered to me. Her face drained of color. Where did you get that? From someone who thought I deserved the truth, he said. She leaned forward. Who told you? He stared at her. Did you think you could lie to everyone forever? She shook her head fast. This is twisted. It's out of context. His voice rose. You told him you loved him. You told me I was just a distraction. Which part is context, Alara? She looked around, realizing people were watching. Her voice softened. Can we talk somewhere private? He laughed once, bitter and low. You loved private, didn't you? That's where you built your stories. Stop it, she whispered. Please. I watched from across the room, my coffee untouched, eyes hidden behind dark glasses. Calden's pain was raw, real. He had believed her. He had defended her when I wouldn't. Now he looked like a man watching his faith collapse. Did you ever care about me? He asked. Yes, she said quickly. You have to believe that. Can't, he said. Because every word feels borrowed. She reached across the table. Calden, listen to me. Someone's manipulating you. Probably him. His eyes hardened. You mean him? The man who trusted you first? Her voice broke. You don't understand how lonely I was. How empty everything felt. Stood abruptly, chair scraping. You don't get to use loneliness as an excuse. Calden, please, she begged. But he turned away, shaking his head. I loved a version of you that never existed. He left without looking back. She sat there, frozen, hands trembling around a coffee cup that had gone cold. When she finally noticed me at the far corner, her eyes widened. You, she said under her breath, standing so fast the cup toppled. You told him. I met her gaze. Did I need to? Her lips parted, but no words came. She grabbed her bag and stormed out. Rain began to fall just as I followed her outside. She was walking fast, head down, muttering to herself. By the time we got home, the storm had broken open completely. Thunder cracked overhead. She slammed the door, turned to me with eyes bright from tears and rage. You ruined everything, she shouted. I hung my jacket. You did that yourself, you told him, she cried. You wanted me humiliated. You deserved the truth, I said. You don't understand what you've done, she said, pacing like a cornered animal. You've destroyed every chance I had left. Chance for what? I asked. Another escape? Another lie? Her voice broke into a sob. Stop talking like that. You're enjoying this? Enjoying it? I said quietly. You think I wanted this? She turned on me, mascara streaking down her face. Then why did you do it? Because I was tired, I said. Tired of pretending not to know. Her eyes widened. Not to know what? I've known everything, I said. For months. The room fell silent. Rain hit the windows in steady sheets. She took a step back. You're lying. I wish I was, I said. She covered her mouth, shaking her head. You read my messages? I saw what you wanted to hide. Her voice cracked. You could have said something. I did, I said. You just didn't listen. She sank onto the couch, trembling. I never wanted it to end like this. It ended long before today, I said. She looked up, eyes red. So what now? You'll leave me? I already did, I said. You just didn't notice. Her breath caught. You're cruel. I'm honest, I said. Tears spilled freely now. I made mistakes, but I loved you. I knelt down in front of her. You loved control. You loved being adored. That's not love, Ilara. That's survival. She grabbed my wrist. Please, I can fix this. I can change. I looked at her hand on mine and remembered how that same hand once felt warm, steady, full of promise. Now it felt desperate, foreign. You can't fix something that died, I said. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Tell me what you want. I wanted you to be real, I said. That's all I ever wanted. She pulled me closer suddenly, tears wet against my neck. I'll be anything you want. Just don't leave me like this. For a second, the old instinct tugged at me. The way she smelled, the way her breath trembled, the way her body leaned into mine. It almost felt familiar. Almost. Then I remembered the cafe. The video calls. The lies stacked like cards waiting to fall. I pulled away gently. You don't get to ask that anymore. She stared at me through the tears. So that's it? That's it. She shook her head. You're walking away after everything? I stood, grabbing my keys from the table. I already did, I said softly. When I stopped loving you, she broke completely then. The sound wasn't loud, just hollow. I opened the door. The rain outside had turned cold, heavy, relentless. I stepped into it and let it wash over me. Behind me, she called my name, but it no longer sounded like mine. The storm raged, but for the first time, I didn't feel trapped in it. I walked until the house disappeared from view, until her voice faded into the rain. Somewhere in that chaos, I felt something close to peace. Not forgiveness, not revenge, just release. I didn't look back. The night before I left, I didn't sleep. I sat on the edge of the bed, watching the faint glow from the streetlight crawl across the curtains. Her breathing was soft beside me, uneven but peaceful in the way only guilt can sometimes allow. I wondered what dreams she was having. Maybe none at all. Maybe even her mind was too tired to lie anymore. At 4 a.m, I rose quietly. The floor was cold under my feet. I moved carefully, each sound measured, like I was walking through the memory of my own life. My suitcase waited near the door. It had been packed for weeks. When I reached for my keys, I stopped for a moment to look back at her. Ilara lay still, one arm stretched across the sheets that no longer carried warmth. I could have left a note. I could have given her an ending, but she had taken that right long ago. Instead, I whispered under my breath, "You wanted freedom. Now you'll have it." Outside, the air smelled like rain and salt. My car waited, engine silent, my reflection faint in the window. As I drove away, the city thinned into dark outlines and empty streets. I didn't look at my phone. I didn't check the time. The life I was leaving didn't deserve a clock. By sunrise, I was miles away, heading toward the coast. The highway stretched endlessly, the sky bruised with the last traces of night. I rolled down the window and let the wind sting my face. It felt like a reminder that I was still here, still breathing, still capable of choosing peace over pain. When I reached the small town by the sea, I didn't tell anyone my name. The realtor asked for it twice as she handed me the keys to a quiet apartment above a bakery. I just smiled. "Call me whatever you like," I said. The place was small white walls, wooden floors, a balcony overlooking the water. Perfect for someone who wanted to disappear. I turned off my old number that afternoon. The phone buzzed once before it died completely, as if saying a final goodbye. For the first time in months, silence didn't feel like punishment. It felt like air. Days turned into weeks. I woke early, watched the ocean move in slow rhythm, and let my mind empty itself. I cooked for one, walked along the shore, and spoke to no one who asked about the past. The weight of her name began to fade, but peace has its own kind of cruelty, tempts you to look back just once. One afternoon, as I sat in a small cafe near the pier, a conversation caught my attention. Two tourists were talking about a scandal back in the city. Names surfaced like old ghosts. Ilara Calden. Words like betrayal, lies, exposure floated in the air. I sipped my coffee slowly. Later that week, I searched them online from the library's public computer. It didn't take long to find what I already suspected. Their affair had bled into the open. Someone had leaked photos, messages, and details of a life built on secrets. Their social circle turned its back on them. Calden had been suspended from his job. Ilara had deleted everything: her posts, her photos, her polished version of truth. I stared at the screen until the cursor blinked like a heartbeat, then closed the window. I didn't need to see more. Months passed. The town became familiar, the smell of bread from below each morning. The laughter of the children who played on the docks, the rhythm of rain against the glass. My body healed before my heart did. We both learned how to live without her. One gray afternoon, drove to the city again, not out of longing, but out of curiosity. I parked near the square where we used to meet for lunch. That was where I saw them. Ilara and Calden stood by the fountain, faces pale, voices sharp. She gestured wildly, tears in her eyes. He looked away, arms crossed, jaw tight. People passed by, pretending not to notice. I stayed at a distance, hidden behind a group of tourists. I could hear fragments of their fight. "You promised me," she said, her voice cracking. "I promised when you still had something worth keeping," he snapped. "Don't you dare blame me for what you lost," she said. He laughed bitterly. "You destroyed it yourself." She reached for him, but he stepped back. "We're done, Ilara," she froze, lips trembling. "You can't just walk away." He turned and left without another word. For a moment she stood there alone, shoulders shaking, mascara smudged by tears. The same image I'd seen before. But this time, it wasn't my burden to carry. I could have felt satisfaction, but what I felt instead was silence. She had finally met herself, stripped of her lies and applause. As I watched her collapse onto the fountain's edge, I realized something simple: peace doesn't always look like victory. Sometimes it's just the absence of need. I left before she could see me. The drive back felt lighter. The sun had broken through the clouds, scattering gold across the wet streets. I rolled the window down again, breathing in the salt and wind. That night, stood on my balcony, watching the horizon swallow the last of the light. The sea below shimmered, endless and calm. I thought of how easy it was to disappear if you stopped feeding the noise. Knock came on the door, once a neighbor offering bread from the bakery. I smiled, thanked her, and closed the door. It felt strange to know that someone could see me now and not know who I had been. In the distance, thunder rolled faintly over the water. It didn't sound like warning anymore. It sounded like closure. I poured myself a glass of wine and sat by the window. The city I left was far behind, shadows fading into something I no longer recognized. Somewhere, she might still be searching for me, replaying old messages, wondering when I vanished. But the truth was simple. I didn't disappear to hurt her. I disappeared to find myself again. The phone on the table stayed silent, the way I wanted it. As the tide moved in, I whispered quietly, "This is freedom." And for the first time in years, it actually was. The morning started like any other. The air was cool, the sea calm, the scent of coffee filling my kitchen. I had learned to love the quiet, the kind that doesn't ache anymore. My routine was simple now. Breakfast on the balcony, a book I never finished. Thought. the sound of waves replacing everything that used to hurt. That's when the letter arrived. The postman handed it to me with a polite smile. The handwriting on the envelope was familiar enough to make my chest tighten. My name was written in the same looping script that once left notes on my pillow. I didn't need to open it to know who it was from. Still, I did. The first line was short. "I don't expect you to forgive me." Her words spilled across the page, messy and uneven, nothing like the polished tone she used to craft her lies. She wrote about losing everything: the apartment, the job, the people who once admired her. She said Calden had left for another city, that no one returned her calls, that she finally understood what love meant when it was too late to have it. Then she wrote, "I see your face in my dreams, not because I miss what we had, but because I miss the peace I destroyed." I sat there for a long time, the paper trembling slightly in my hand. Her words didn't sting. They didn't heal either. They just existed, like an echo from a life that wasn't mine anymore. When I finished reading, I folded the letter neatly and set it aside. The sea breeze caught the corner of the page, lifting it as if it wanted to carry her words away. Maybe it should. Later that afternoon, I met Mira. She was sitting at the cafe by the pier, sketching the horizon with a pencil that kept smudging on her fingertips. I noticed her before she noticed me. Something about her quiet focus drew me in. When she looked up, her eyes met mine with a calm warmth that didn't demand anything. "Do you mind if I sit here?" I asked. She smiled, moving her sketchbook slightly. "Only if you don't mind the sound of terrible art." I laughed. "I think it's beautiful already, and you're either lying or kind," she said, tilting her head. "Maybe both," replied. That simple exchange felt easier than any conversation I'd had in years. There was no tension, no need to measure every word, just quiet honesty. We talked for hours that day. About the sea, about why people leave, about how sometimes you can start over, even when you think it's too late. She listened the way few people do, with intent, not curiosity. When the sky turned orange, she closed her sketchbook and said softly, "You sound like someone who's finally learned how to breathe," smiled faintly. Took me a while. The following weeks, we met often. Coffee turned into dinners. Laughter turned into comfort. Mira wasn't like Alara. She didn't try to impress or control or hide. She was transparent in the best way. What she said matched what she felt. One evening, as we walked along the beach, she stopped to take off her shoes. The tide rolled in, brushing against her feet. She turned to me and said, "You always look like you're holding back a storm. What are you afraid of?" "Losing peace," I said quietly. She stepped closer. Close enough that I could smell the faint scent of her perfume mixed with salt. "Maybe peace isn't something you keep," she said. "Maybe it's something you choose again every day." Her words stayed with me. That night, I returned home and found Alara's letter still on the table. The ink had faded slightly where the breeze had caught it earlier. I picked it up one last time, reread the part where she wrote, "I hope you find someone who gives you what I couldn't." I walked out onto the balcony, the paper rustling softly in my hand. The sea stretched endlessly before me, calm and patient. I tore the letter in half, then into smaller pieces, letting the wind take them one by one. They scattered like ashes, disappearing into the night. For the first time, I didn't feel anger or satisfaction. Just release. A knock came on the door. Mira stood there, hair windblown, cheeks pink from the cold. "I brought dinner," she said, holding up to take-out boxes. "But if you already ate, I'll just leave it here and make you feel guilty later," I laughed. "Come in." I was about to burn a frozen pizza anyway. She stepped inside, her presence filling the room with warmth. We ate by the balcony, the lights from the pier reflecting on the water below. At one point, she looked at me and said, "You know, you have that look again." "What look?" "The one people have when they realize the worst thing that ever happened to them might have been the best." I leaned back in my chair, watching her smile. "Maybe you're right." She raised her cup of coffee. 2 second chances. I lifted mine. 2 deserving them. The night stretched quietly after that. The sound of waves mixed with our laughter, the kind that didn't need to hide pain behind it. When she reached out to brush a crumb from my shirt, her fingers lingered just slightly. It wasn't dramatic or scripted, it was real. Later, when she left, I walked her to her car. Before she got in, she turned to me. "I'm not trying to replace anyone," she said softly. "I know," I replied. "That's why I'm not afraid to let you in." She smiled. "Good, because you look better when you're not haunted." When her taillights faded into the distance, I stood there for a moment, feeling the sea breeze wrap around me. The same air that once carried her scent now carried peace. I walked back upstairs, opened the balcony doors wide, and let the night in. The sound of the ocean filled the room, steady and endless. I leaned on the railing and watched the horizon blur into the dark. Ilara was a memory, now a lesson written in scars, not ink. Her karma had found her in loneliness and regret. Mine had found me in silence and renewal. I whispered into the wind. "Sometimes losing everything means finding yourself." The sea answered with a gentle roar, and for the first time I truly believed it.